Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ful-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me tonight are my co-hosts, Drew and Mozza. How are we doing, guys?
All good.
All good, my friend.
Our aim for tonight is obviously to do a quick review of Tuesday night's League Cup game, penalty madness, and then also look forward to Saturday's league game against Newcastle. So let's start, obviously, with the game on Tuesday night. Um, I know from watching the game that we made 11 changes. 11 changes, and the side looked a bit disjointed. But I can't help but feel really disappointed with the way that the game went on Tuesday. We looked really, really blunt up top, and for someone who's been sticking up for Rodrigo Muniz all summer, saying that I think he can do a job as a striker. Every single game where he pulls one of these blanks, I'm getting more and more worried that our firepower up front is just not going to be good enough to challenge anyone or anything in the league at the moment. As much as yesterday was a cup game. Mozza, looking at the starting 11 for the game on Tuesday, uh, what are your thoughts compared to the actual performance that they gave us?
On paper, you would think that that's a fairly easy win. No disrespect to Preston. I don't really know what to say. You're going to have to help me out here, lads, on this one, because I don't know why we didn't win that game. 1-0 down, I thought, here we go. But we'll pull it back. Might get it to 2-1. And we'll get on to what happened later. But I'm at a loss for words, really. Like, why we couldn't finish. Muniz, like you say, I think we said it in our last pod that he just needed a goal, and then he'll hit the ground running, and then he'll be a steam train getting the goals for all the future games, and it just didn't happen. So I'm puzzled. Like I say, bit lost for words right now.
Yeah, I ultimately, you look at the goal that we conceded on Tuesday night. I will say that it's exceptionally well taken by the Preston player. Not really much Bender could do, and I don't even think there's much you can complain about the defending. Sometimes players just hit balls really well and they go in. It happens. Um, but I think we responded well in the sense of we didn't let it knock us off our own game too much and what we were doing. But our problem there is that uh, we have no impetus up front. As much as we look comfortable on the ball and we look like we had all the attack and all the play, it didn't look like we were going to score in a month of Sundays. I genuinely looked more like a goal threat, and I was sat on my sofa eating a cheese sandwich in South Croydon. Like it isn't. It's really, really concerning. Drew, at what point do we really start panicking about the fact that we look like we have no goals in us?
Not yet. Not yet. I mean, going back to your point about Muniz, he's quite an emotional lad, and he's a massive confidence player. I mean, we all saw his reaction when he scored for the first time against Burnley last season. He was literally in tears. I think I think it. I mean, we're worried about it. I imagine it's probably playing on his mind massively as well. I still think he's got the upside. I mean, was he 22? I think what concerns me is the options around him. We've got a 33-year-old Jimenez who, in his prime, he was an exceptional player, and then there's not much else, being brutally honest. And one of the things that I think we need to do is I'd like to see people breaking beyond the forward from deep, give us more options. We're too passive. We're too. I mean, that's one of the reasons I think Traore has been such a breath of fresh air because he's so direct and so powerful. And those regular viewers will have heard me say before, you can teach people tactics, you can practice skills, but you can't teach pure athletic ability. You can't teach speed. But going back to your question, when do we start to panic about it? Not yet. But I mean, if it gets to the point where we're starting to get cut adrift and we're looking at Christmas, and we're thinking, actually, we're closer to the bottom 6 than we are the top 10, then I think January could be interesting. I'm not gonna panic now, but I think we would be foolish to think that we're going to get away with it because there's 3 worse teams than us in the Premier League. We should have beaten West Ham. We mismanaged that game. That was just rank stupidity. We should have taken the ball into the corner and just sat on it. Ipswich, we didn't deserve to win that, but again, those of our regular watchers will know our view on that. That was a game where we did everything, Ash, that we as Fulham fans know we can't afford to do when we're playing a newly promoted team. Let the crowd get into it. Let them get confident. I am still of the opinion that a lot of our problems are out of our own doing. Fundamentally, I don't feel that we've been in any game where we have been completely blown away or we've been completely outclassed, we've been completely lost. I just think that all of our problems stem from within inside our club. But when do we start panicking? Not yet. I'm not even close to panicking. Not even close to panicking. But I think that I think the midfield have got to be a little bit more proactive in getting forward and breaking beyond the striker.
I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I think for me, I think we've been doing in all the games we've played so far, even at United away. We're doing all of the build-up play exceptionally well. Like if you only showed us playing from the edge of our box to the edge of the opposition's box, you'd be absolutely pleased with the football that you're watching because it's great. The problem is just as soon as we get to the opposition's box, we look clueless. It's like we forget what we're trying to do. Like we forget the object of the game is to put the ball in the net, and we just like, oh, what do we do now? And it happened loads yesterday. It happened loads on Saturday against West Ham, where we broke through the line of defence loads of times, and we just didn't look like we were going to score. And it's a real concern for me with that. Let's look at some positives about Tuesday night, though, because I don't want to be too doom and gloom before we start talking about the Newcastle game, because that will be the tricky one out of these two. As much as we lost. In the second half on Tuesday, I thought Ryan Sessegnon showed some of his ability that we knew he had. I think that the fitness is definitely coming back, and that ability going forward is definitely coming back as what it is. We've all of us have said, and I'll let Drew talk about it in a minute because I know he will, that Ryan Sessegnon is not a left back. Like as much as Marco Silva might want him to be, I just don't think he's a natural defender. But I think he has a natural ability going forward that we should be trying to exploit, especially if we're getting him into the club. I also thought Reece Nelson again looked really really good on Tuesday night. The lad was doing everything, literally everything to try to get us to score a goal. And the amount of times he ran into a 4-man Preston block, or he'd get the ball out wide and there'd be nobody in the box to cross to. It happened 4 or 5 times that did. So I can't really moan too much about it. So I thought, we said it on Saturday after the West Ham game that Reece Nelson looks like he's going to be a real prospect for us this year. You know, um, and I'm really pleased that Ryan Sessegnon played as well as he did, especially in the second half yesterday. My concerns are obviously the rest of the team probably didn't look like they were up to scratch to what we need. We look at the goal we scored yesterday, and I think that it's another really well worked team goal. We seem to score 3 or 4 of these so far this season, where it's really nice play, a really nice cutback by Ryan Sessegnon, and a really neat finish by Nelson. Um, but other than that 10 seconds of attacking play, we didn't look like we had any other goals with us. That goal, for me, that game was destined for penalties as soon as it went to 1-1. I didn't think we were going to score again, and Preston didn't look like they were even trying to attack us to score. We looked really comfortable at the back, but we just didn't look like we were going to score. And then we go on to the penalties, and I don't even know how to describe what we were watching last night penalty-wise, because, to score 15 penalties and to still lose a penalty shootout is the most Fulham thing you will ever see in your lives. Like that, there's no other way to describe it other than, who's the football club who's played the most games in the FA Cup in one season and not won it? Oh, that'll be us. Like, who scored the most penalties in a penalty shootout and not won it? Oh, that'll be us. Like, it's the most Fulham thing ever, isn't it? Like, Drew, I don't know about you, but watching the penalties last night, what do you think the biggest problem for us was in terms of that the penalty shootout lasting as long as it was? Was it that, you know, Preston's penalties were all excellent, or that Bender didn't look like he was going to save any of them, or what was it? Was it just one of those football things that happen every now and then that was just nuts?
I don't think you can criticise either team really. Poor Timmy Chestnut. Someone had to be the fall guy. I will say I didn't know, and bearing in mind how long I've been going to Fulham, I cannot recall a reliable penalty taker probably since Louis Saha. I didn't know we were capable of scoring 15 penalties in a game. I couldn't believe it. I genuinely couldn't. And for us to lose, well, I mean, that's why the phrase Fulhamish was coined. But they were all excellent penalties. I thought Bender didn't get near any of them, but that's not to take away anything from the Preston boys because all their penalties were excellent. The only penalties he did save were the ones that were basically kicked straight at him. He didn't look like he was actually a better penalty taker than he was penalty saver, ironically enough. What I took from it, there were some positives. I think that we can safely say we have two legitimate penalty takers now in Raul and Lukic. I know Lukic takes penalties for his national team. Our favourite Serb obviously was on penalty duties before he departed for the desert. But let's be honest, as much as we loved him, my view of Mitrovic on penalties was it was just a case of hit and hope. Blast it as hard as you could, and then see where it goes. But last night, looking at Raul and looking at Lukic, I'm very confident now. If we get a penalty and one of them's on the field, we're going to score. I mean, Ash, you were quite funny last night. Well, you're always very funny, but last night you were particularly funny when you just said you wanted it to be over because it seemed like the competition that was never going to end. The fact they had to reset the score to 0-0 because we'd gone through it just about sums it up. But I mean, it's such a Fulham thing to happen. But no, I mean, I'm annoyed we went out. I while you were talking, I was looking at the lineup again, and that front three was enough to cause anyone's problems. Where I think it fell down, and this ties into what I've said previously. You had Kearney, you had Berge, and you had Reed. Now, unless you're going to let Berge play attacking midfield, you've got no one that's naturally going to break beyond the forwards. And you said it yourself, Ash. Reece Nelson puts the ball in the box, or he runs into 4 Preston defenders. We need to commit to attacking. You don't need to out-tactic people when you've got the better players. You said that Preston didn't look like they were interested in attacking as much, but that a lot of that was to do with the fact that we held on to the ball because we're better than them, and we should have just sold out and trusted ourselves. If they score 1, we can score 2. If they score 2, we'll score 3. But I love Silva. I love the fact that he likes control, possession-based football. But sometimes I just think we lack the urgency, and we just need to sell out. You know what I mean? Attack with vigor and pace and commitment, like we've got a purpose, not trying to, dare I say it, Arsenal the ball into the net with these perfect goals. Because last night there did appear to be, from where I was watching, too much over-elaboration. But your point about Sessegnon's well made. Those of you out there that watch us regularly or follow me on Twitter know my views are exactly the same as Ash's. Sessegnon had a nightmare at Spurs. The club was too big for him. I think that manifested itself in him psychologically, which then he ended up picking a lot of injuries because of that, because he lacked confidence. I think he'll only get better, but he'll only really get better when we start playing him in the offensive side of the team. because I love him, but let's be honest, no one's going to confuse him with a natural defender. And there is no one that goes to Craven Cottage that thinks our left back position is as strong as our right back position. And I'm including Jedi in that, because behind, I mean, you take away the starting right back, they're interchangeable. The greatest respect to Cess. I'm concerned if we're playing a Premier League team, especially a good one, say, for example, Newcastle, who play with wingers, and you've got Cess at left back. And bearing in mind, he is trying to rebuild himself both physically and psychologically. I'd worry for him. But yeah, it was good. When I saw him cross that ball and run and pick someone out, that was just like he was when he broke through. And that's, ironically enough, he's got those sort of instincts to be around near the front. That's why he scored a lot of his goals, picking it up. And that's something we could probably do with right now. But Silva's very much got his, front three, and he likes to play Iwobi on the left, and he likes to play Traore on the right. But I don't think it would hurt him to have a look at Sessegnon on the left occasionally. Just saying different. But yeah, as for the penalty shootout, all you can do is laugh. 15 and we lose.
Yeah, it's the most Fulham thing, isn't it? It reminds you of that. It reminds me of the Keith Allen video where he's just standing outside the cottage and going, Fulham, scoring 15 penalties and losing 16-15. Fulham, like that's exactly it, isn't it? Let's move on and look forward to the game on the weekend. It's a tough challenge on Saturday with Newcastle coming down. We all know the talents that they possess. Whether or not they're quite on song as they should be at the moment, I don't know. But looking at the game on Saturday, what can we realistically expect? Mozza, I know that after Saturday's disappointment against West Ham and the frustration of the last night, it's probably not a game we're necessarily looking forward to be playing. But what do you think we realistically should be looking to try and get out of this game with Newcastle on Saturday?
It's not looking good for us, is it? And I'm quite anxious about facing them. The black and white army versus another black and white army, or the Magpies, as they say. What should we be getting out of the game? Ideally, a win. I think at this stage, I'd take a draw. Certainly don't want a loss. But it's at home. I just hope the squad's confidence isn't knocked too much. I'm intrigued to know what sort of squad Marco Silva will put out. We've just been talking about us having a lack of attack or an offence. We really need to come out guns blazing in this, in my opinion. And not to just go over the last two games, West Ham and Preston, but I'm not panicking, but I'm starting to think, where does the buck stop? What is this style of play? Is there an elaborate plan that Silva has for us? Who knows? But we just need to be getting the ball in the back of the net. As simple as that's football. That's how you win games. That's how you get the points. So we need to show some sort of vigor and resilience in order to do that.
Yeah, it's a simple game when you put it down to just putting the ball in the net, and as we proved, and as we've been proving since the existence of the club, that it's a simple game, but we'll sure make a hard work of it. Drew, looking at the squads for Saturday, what are you expecting in terms of a starting 11 for us?
Probably very similar to what he had against West Ham, I'm thinking. I don't think Silva's going to make any drastic changes. I think building on what Mozza said, Newcastle have got significant problems up front. Isak's out, Wilson's out. They've bought that new young striker from Sheffield United for about 10 million, but I mean, he's very green. Their threat is going to come from the wings, Gordon and Guimaraes in the centre. Now, if we can neutralise them, I think we've got a good good shot at winning, but I think that we need to attack with purpose and attack with intent. And I would be very inclined to sell out and properly go for it. I mean, they beat us 3 times last season. In the cup, it was a nothing game. The game at Craven Cottage, we should have been about 4 or 5-0 up. You know, going back to your point, Ash, it was beautiful approach play, but we just weren't putting the ball in the net. Can we beat them? Yes, we can. I mean, I don't look at them and think they're streets ahead of us, and they've got significant problems up front. But at this moment in time, would I be disappointed if we didn't lose and we just got away with the draw? No, I wouldn't. But we need something to click with the team, because the team's got talent. The team's got talent, but something's not quite right yet. I mean, maybe people are still finding their feet in this post-Paulinia world, who, ironically enough, I think may prove to be a bigger miss than Mitrovic was, because he was so far above anything else we had in midfield. And I'm not trying to be down on all the other players, but as a pure defensive midfielder, I mean, he was great. I mean, I love Lukic. I've been on record saying that, but he's not the physical force that Paulinia was. He isn't that barrier. Lukic will cover the play, will intercept, will read the game. He won't knock you on your ass. You know, I'm not saying he's not physical and he's a coward. Far from it, but he's just a different type of player. And we've discussed previously the balance in midfield. I mean, there's been a lot of analysis on the changing role of Pereira. And Silva is obviously wedded to him massively because he turned down the huge bids in the transfer window that we're all aware of. But watching the midfield, it seems to me that Smith Rowe is clearly the future, because I think he's only just going to he's going to get better. I think the problems are going to be. I mean, I know we're talking about Muniz and we've talked about the lack of striking options, and I'm still disappointed about Jay Stansfield. I genuinely am. I understand why the team did it, but we didn't bring in anyone else, and that's what concerns me. Because being brutally honest, boys, if Muniz continues to struggle, I would have not had any problem just saying to Jay, look, go out there, you've got 5, 6, 7 games. Don't worry, just play your football. But we can't do that now. And I'm still not convinced about our balance in midfield. I think that we're not going to have a better time to play Newcastle because of their problems they've got up front. But I would like us to, not say throw caution to the wind, because Silva's never going to do that, but I'd like to see us sell out and go for it, you know, and bomb people into the box and overload, you know, and then just hope we can recover. But I won't be disappointed if it's a draw.
Yeah, I tend to think I'm in line with that, really, in the sense of not being too disappointed if we draw the game. But, you know, for me, there's a couple of areas that if we really want to push on and we really want to start winning more games, especially at home in the league this year, there's a couple of players that we need to see more from. You know, we've been complaining for weeks of Andreas Pereira dropping, 3, 4 out of 10 performances, but somehow looking like he's the best thing since sliced bread, because, he takes every single one of our set pieces, and because of that, he looks like he creates way more than he does. And we're not going to hit that again because I don't want to keep talking about that. He just basically, one of two things needs to happen with AP. He either needs to start just letting his football do the talking rather than trying to make everything so overcomplicated and, beating the same man 3 times, or he's got 3 passes on, make the easy one rather than the hardest one he physically can. Just get his head out of the clouds a bit, and then he may well improve. The position that worries me at the moment actually is the striker, because Muniz, as much as I'm sitting there going, he just needs a goal. He needs to Kevin McDonald a goal. He just needs one to go in off his backside, and then it'll probably turn a corner because we know what that'll do for his confidence. I'm now at the stage where I've not got a problem with the fact that Marco Silva is starting Raul, because at least he's scoring. Not at a prolific rate, but he's scored a goal in so far this year. What worries me there is that if one of them gets injured, our only backup striker is an injured Carlos Vinicius, who is only still at the club and was only given a squad number after transfer deadline day because of the fact that we'd sold Jay and that we needed more cover in that position, and we didn't even have a full squad, so we could get away with giving him a squad number. Other than that, we don't really have much there. What I would like to see is, Reece Nelson is someone who can potentially play up front as well. He's done it for Arsenal. That he can cover on the left and up front, and I would like to see maybe him come in for this game. I know it could be quite. He probably not start over Iwobi because he seems quite settled in the starting lineup. But I'd like to see when he comes on in the 60th minute or the 65th minute, whenever Marco decides to make that sub. I really want to see him sort of not just covering the space on the wing, but covering the space in the box as well, like drifting across to support whoever's currently up front, because I think that's a position where we've struggled so far. We've been doing really well at getting the ball down the wing to potentially cross the ball. We're doing really well at getting the ball to the edge of the box. It's just once we get to the edge of the box, that's where we look like we've run out of ideas. And whether or not that's just a reluctance to have a few pop shots from distance, or whether that's just because there's not enough movement in the box, or that the people who are putting the ball in the box just aren't up to scratch doing so. I'm not 100%. I think we need 3 or 4 more games into the league to really put our finger on, you know, what what our weak point is in terms of that, because I still don't 100% see it, other than the fact that we can't put the ball in the net, and that looks bad. One positive I am looking forward to this game is that I'm really happy to see Anderson come back in. I thought he played really, really well against West Ham on Saturday. He looked really, really assured. And I know he won the club's Man of the Match award. Personally, it probably would have went to Anthony Robinson if he didn't make the mistake for the goal that we conceded in the last minute. But I want to see Joachim Andersen making the most of his quarterback style passing and getting the ball up and out. If we're not making the most of a defender who can pass the ball 65 yards on a sixpence, and having Adama Traore running onto those balls, then I think we're missing out massively on what seems to be, even for someone who isn't technically that inept, like technically minded, that a quite simple approach to just going straight forward in terms of trying to be route one, get it up, and at least have a few chances. And that's why I think I'm in agreement with Drew that I think sometimes we just need to be a bit more brave and throw the kitchen sink at teams trying to score goals, rather than getting to the edge of the box and then putting our head up and going, all right, what do we do now? Or why are we trying to score the perfect goal? Because that can be quite frustrating. Mozza, looking at the game on Saturday, we're looking at that Newcastle squad. Is there any particular player that steps out to you that we really, really need to be concerned about?
Anthony Gordon. I'm really nervous about him. I think I've just got this feeling. He's going to be a proper villain, like he can be, like pantomime sort of style, and cause problems for us. Depending on what lineup we put out, I'm nervous. And I know maybe in very shortly you might ask me to predict the scoreline, and I don't want to say that it will be a loss. So I don't want to be pessimistic, but sorry, that's my long answer anyway. But that's who I'm most worried about, Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, and Drew, same question for you, mate. Is there anybody in particular that you're really concerned about on Saturday?
Guimaraes, because he turned the game at the Cottage last season. He's too good to be able to keep a lid on for 90 minutes. But with the lack of attacking options, We need to focus, in my view, focus all our efforts on him. The thing with Gordon, Mozza, I'm not in any way, shape or form shitting on what you said, because he is a good player. He's an England international, and I was one of the loudest voices during the tournament in the summer that wanted him to play on the left to give us natural balance. But he needs the ball given to him, because he's out wide. And the person that gives the ball and distributes the ball is Guimaraes. He's a quality player. He really is. If we keep him quiet, and I'd be very tempted. I'll be quite honest. I'd be very tempted, bearing in mind the problems Newcastle have with injuries. I'd be tempted to spy him. By that I mean just put someone on him, go man for man, follow him everywhere, even if it's Reed, even if it's Berge. Because he's the one that can open up the game for them. He can pass, he can score goals. I mean, he is a Champions League midfielder. He's exceptional. But yeah, I mean, so he would be my danger man. But that's, I mean, most people would pick either someone like him, Gordon, or Isak. But I just think he's very, very good, very good.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think I'm wary of both of them. I think they are both really good players, and they both they can be quite attack minded at times. Guimaraes has that ability to just be one of those midfielders who is just always there. It just seems that his positional awareness, and is one of the best players in the league outside of Man City and the Arsenal, that in terms of knowing where to be on the pitch where his team needs him to be, and he'll do the ugly work as well as the good work, the lovely work as well.
I mean, let's
Which
be honest, Ash.
is
If he was turning out for Barcelona or Real Madrid, you wouldn't bat an eyelid, would you? Really?
no, not 100%. I wouldn't know. I think he was one of those players that he 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 does the ugly stuff, he does the beautiful stuff, and he does it, and he's happy to do both. And you can't fault him for that. And as you say, we are kind of lucky in the sense of playing a Newcastle team that are quite short up front because of injuries. But I'm going to ask you both to give us a score prediction, because I am, because how we always finish these episodes. You know, get, let's just be be realistic. I've gone in my own predictions the last couple of weeks. I've gone with what my head's saying, not what I've gone with what my heart's saying, not what my head's saying. Sorry. So, let's go with that. Drew, give us a scoreline prediction for Saturday, but tell us what you'd be happy with if that doesn't necessarily happen.
I think it's going to be another 1-1. I think it's going to be until Fulham show me something like they're going to commit to the attack. I would be worried if Newcastle scored twice. I'm not saying that they will, but if they scored twice, I would be happy with a draw. Fulham could well surprise me. They could come out and absolutely storm, the barricades and, win 4-0. But I just don't see the mentality there at the moment. I desperately want Fulham to win, but like the West Ham game, I mean, Ash, you saw it. Realistically, how Fulham played. Were we ever going to win more than 1-0 if we had won?
We could have played for six more weeks, and we wouldn't have scored another goal.
But see, that's my point.
That's poor.
That's exactly my point, mate. So if we're going to win, we're going to win by the odd goal. If Newcastle score twice, I'm taking a draw all day long, because I'm concerned about whether we score 3 times. So I think it's going to be it'll be a score draw, and I think that we could well be talking about similar issues when we sit down together come the weekend. I want to be wrong. But I've just seen us score 15 fucking penalties and lose. So I'm not Fulham. I mean, it's Fulham, isn't it? I so want to sit here and say I think we're going to win 3-1, but I just don't see us scoring 3 goals. And if Newcastle scored 2, I'll be happy with the draw. So I'm going to go 1-1.
Okay, no, I completely understand what you're saying. and especially with the concerns if Newcastle can score more than one goal about just where our goals are going to come from. As much as we look comfortable on the ball, I just don't see where the goals are coming from. Mozzo, how about yourself, mate? Give us a scoreline prediction, and what you'd be happy with if that doesn't necessarily come in.
I'm going to say 2-2. And this will be the last time where I'm optimistic, depending how the game goes this coming Saturday. I think Muniz to score, and also someone in midfield, maybe a Lukic goal as well. If that doesn't happen, then I will give more sort of glass half empty predictions in the future. But I'm being optimistic here, thinking that it will be a draw. Truth be told, I think we will lose, but I'm going to say 2-2.
Okay. I understand your thinking. Really, for me, I've been trying this year. Anyone who knows me knows I'm usually really pessimistic. I'm one of those proper hardened Fulham pessimistic fans who just I've seen it all. I don't ever believe they're not going to let me down. So we'll go with that. Uh, I right now would take a draw if you offered it to me. Whether that's 0-0, 1-1, 2-2, I'd snatch it off, snatch out your hand. I've just got a feeling that the defense are going to be kicked up the arse a bit because of the goal they conceded on Saturday, and you can tell after the goal went in on Saturday that there was a lot of disappointment in that defense amongst themselves that they never managed to deal with that situation. And unlike usual when we concede those type of goals, in the sense of, there seemed to be a real togetherness there. Anthony Robinson's head dropped a little bit, and Anderson was there telling him just like, let's keep it up, and then it's one of those things. So I feel like we might see a solid defensive performance from us, especially with Newcastle being slightly weakened going forward. And I trust Anderson and Bassi to keep that relationship growing as well as it can. But I too am going to say a draw, and I think I'm going to go 1-1, because I just don't see us scoring more than one goal. And like Drew, if Newcastle grab a second goal at any point or go 2-0 up, or make it 2-1, I would be seriously concerned, because as soon as we start chasing games, we just don't look like we're that comfortable. And funny enough, this year, the one time we went ahead against Leicester, we scored a second goal and then seemed to just have the same problem. It almost like we didn't want to score more goals and round up the score a little bit, and then they hit one back, and we looked like we were panicking a bit. But we'll see how that goes. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. I know that it's a bit of a somber one, because we're all extremely frustrated about the penalty shootout last night. As much as there are positives, we can score penalties. It's frustrating. For everyone who's watching, thanks very much for joining us this week. We will be back recording hopefully over the weekend for a show to come out on Monday to review the game on Saturday. Depending on how that goes, you'll either see, three of us happy faced and smiling, or ready to cry. But we'll go with that. Just to make you all aware, if you haven't seen it already, the first in the new series of FFCME was released this week, with Ivan Berry. It's a really good interview. It's been one of my favourite ones to get on and have a chat about Fulham with. It's a really good insight about working for the club. And he's a great guy, so it's a great one. So give that a watch. It's on our YouTube channel. We'll put the link in the description of this as well. Everybody else who is watching, please like and subscribe to the show. Share it amongst your Fulham mates. Help us grow. And until then, we'll see you soon. Come on, you Whites.